Friday Night Frisbee live from Salt Lake City, Utah. We are at Zions Bank Stadium getting ready for the Colorado Summit and the Salt Lake Shred, the penultimate weekend of the regular season in the Ultimate Frisbee Association. Actually began a couple hours ago. This is live right now on WatchUFA.tv. Boston and Philly were tied through three quarters. The Phoenix are still looking for their first goal of the fourth. Running out of time as Philly trying to get back within two here. They played really well through three quarters, but a buzzer beater dramatically for Boston late in the third. And the Glory looking to officially clinch the 1 seed in the East Division. They suffered their first loss of the season last week. This game right now is live on WatchUFA.tv. And tomorrow, the game of the week, Boston, D.C., also Atlantic, Carolina, Madison, Minnesota. So many huge games in the UFA here in the second to last weekend of the regular season. Philly's taking a little too much time. They finally score, but Boston wins. They're up by 2 with the disc with 2.5 minutes to go. And we say good evening from Zions Bank Stadium, everybody. Alongside Ian Toner, I'm Evan Lepler. The Shred and the Summit for the second time in a week. They played on the 4th of July last Friday night in Colorado. It was a relatively one-sided game. Colorado has had a week to ruminate. You know the vibe of the Summit as well as anybody. What do you expect from Colorado tonight? Their season's not on the line, but their pride very much is.
I think this is a group that knows what it's capable of and is searching to try and find a way to play up to that potential. I don't think there's anyone who's warming up out there right now that is kind of thinking, this is unwinnable. They played us out of the barn last weekend. I think they're aware of just how much they left on the table and how outplayed they got last weekend. But I think they're confident in their ability to have learned from that and make some strategic adjustments. All of that being said, we're going to talk in the pregame and in the broadcast about what changes we do or don't see. This is not a strong lineup tonight that Colorado's bringing to this game as was active last week. And they're not going to be missing the likes of a Toby Brooks or a Quinn Finer or a Zeke Thoresen. But I also have to wonder if that extra defender with legs not necessarily being in top form comes back to bite them and just makes the climb that much steeper relative to last week.
Well, I think even Bryce Merrill, the head coach of the Shred, recognizes that they're probably not going to be as clean offensively tonight as they were last Friday. One reason is because the wind is whipping here at Zions Bank Stadium. Not quite championship weekend style, but it will be a factor tonight. Salt Lake offensively last week ripped the Summit apart. Only 3 turnovers from the O-line, all of them from the same guy. And it's not like Chad Jorgensen had a bad game by any means. Colorado is a team that prides itself on its defense and stylistically throwing different things at their opponents. What made Salt Lake have so much success last week against Colorado?
I mean, their deep game was absolutely dialed in, and the way they got to their deep game was just incredibly precise and effective. They were opening up deep shots by having little chisel cuts that cut through the core of the Colorado all-person quasi-force middle defense. They wasted very little time hucking down the line when small windows were there. And another big part of this is that very few of these deep guys, these deep receivers, tried to high point the disc and get into a 50-50 jumping battle with someone. More often than not, the hucks were put out on a platter to run onto. And in the instances where there were other defenders in the area, the receivers had the wherewithal to just body out and hold their position and not turn it into a who can jump highest at the right moment instance, with, of course, the exception of this final clip here.
Well, on too many of these clips, there's no defender to be seen. I mean, look at this, just all alone.
That one in particular was blown coverage right off the pole. I remember watching that one. But I expect Colorado to find a way to clamp down on these deep shots tonight, whether it's specifically on the mark, but also stylistically encouraging the defense to push receivers under and have someone helping over the top more frequently.
Well, the Salt Lake offense remains intact from what it was last week. Still no Will Selfridge, but the first place Shred have won 9 straight games. With a win tonight, they clinch the top seed in the West Division playoffs. Colorado needs a win tonight and help from Minnesota, and there still might not be enough for the Spiders, or for the Summit, I should say. But Colorado wants to get the 2 seed and get a home playoff game as well, and they do have the tiebreaker over Oakland if they can play well and show that they deserve it.
They're looking for something to celebrate tonight, and they want to have that momentum. They're going to go play Las Vegas tomorrow night. That's Colorado's next trip. But we've got something to celebrate here in the booth. For those of you who aren't aware, today is our good buddy Evan Lepler's birthday, and we believe it's something in the area of your 200th broadcast. So here's a quick look back at some of those first years on the mic.
Yeah, we used to wear the shirt and ties, and then one day in Dallas it was just extraordinarily hot, and it's been polos ever since. But look, I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of great people. And calling UFA, I had no idea it was 200 broadcasts. That sounds like an estimation. But what is this?
We've got a little birthday cake fruit tart just for you.
Oh, thank you.
Unfortunately, the candle has taken on some legs
okay.
and a life of its own. So we're not going to light a fire on live broadcast here. But wanted to say happy birthday, man. It's been such a pleasure working with you all these years. And I hope all the fans get to enjoy and wish you a happy birthday as well.
Thank you very much. Number 40, it's a milestone for sure, but I feel like I'm just getting started, and the best is yet to come. And we'll see if the Shred and Summit oblige. I've been saying all season, I want double overtime. This cake is nice, but double overtime on my birthday would be even more special. So the Summit need to bring it tonight.
No question about it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean, let's talk about one of the conversations that really emanated from last week, which was the physicality that Salt Lake showed. And this is, Bryce Merrill, we asked him about it. He's not trying to, he doesn't want to be considered a cheater. He's trying to play aggressive defense. And, we see this in the Ultimate Frisbee Association in various ways. I know certain teams take exceptions. It's up to the officials to kind of set the tone early in the game. And look, I don't think it's just a Salt Lake issue. I think every team has various forms of physicality. Ian, what's your take, and what do you expect tonight with the familiarity with a Week 11 showdown and a Week 12 showdown? These teams obviously familiar with each other, and familiarity, as we so often hear, breeds contempt.
Yeah, so what I expect tonight, neither team is going to shy away from the contact. I know Colorado practiced this week, encouraging its D-line to come in and set an incredibly aggressive mark against all of its O-line players at their Tuesday night practice, to the point that some of the guys were getting a little frustrated by it, but they wanted that experience and those reps to feel more comfortable playing through that contact. The first part of your question, what do you think about it? Having played Ultimate at the highest levels a couple years ago, everyone does this. Everyone bumps. Everyone does that little bit to gain an advantage. And you can say that that's against the letter of the law. You can say that it's against the spirit of the game, if you will. I think it's unavoidable that there's going to be some of that. I think if there's a moment when there's been a discussion about it and maybe 1 or 2 fouls have been called and the behavior hasn't stopped and it continues continues occurring, that's when it becomes a problem. And when the team who's throwing the chest on the mark or kind of throwing a shoulder downfield in the stack, that's when they have to look themselves in the mirror and say, is this how we want to be known as a team?
Colorado has a lot of good players, but Quinn Finer is the guy that sets the tone for this team on offense and kind of culturally. I mean, he's dynamic in so many ways. He needs to play through it and bring the right mentality to lead this team tonight.
I don't disagree, and I think Quinn was one of those guys who was wanting the physicality at practice on Tuesday, was also frustrated by it, and I think the other part of this is that we're seeing an evolution of the Colorado offense, right? 2022, we had Nethercutt at the helm. Quinn was coming into his own, 23 and 24. You know, Quinn was obviously the most talented player on that line and dealing with a little injury, but now they're centering the disc to Toby every time. And Zeke is playing a lot of O. And so while Quinn does have to set the tone with his mentality and with his execution, there's also a lot of weight riding on Brooks and Thoresen with the way they've set their offensive strategy now that these guys are back in the lineup.
All 7 guys on the Shred offense were awesome last week, but McKay, as Tim Kafalis, the coach of the Summit, said, McKay Jorgensen is a terror. Just everything he does is a free reset. He makes the right decision. He's so tough to contain. How do they slow him down tonight?
Well, that's the most interesting thing about him is that other coaches call him a free reset. They game plan to put their best handler defender or one of the most agile defenders on him, and yet he gets a 5-yard up line, or he gets the swing and throws the next one. You'll notice very few of these throws are like unbelievable break throws, or he's not gaining 20-plus yards. He's doing the crucial thing to keep the offense moving. How are you going to slow him down? I think you want to do your best to push him in a downfield space and get him out of there and not let him slash and get a nice little chisel cut as you're pushing him out of that space.
Yeah, some of the Colorado leaders were talking about if we can just make them take a minute to score instead of 20 seconds to score, that would be a win. We shall see what happens tonight. Speaking of the Jorgensens, they got 3 on the squad, Luke, Chad, and McKay. They are all special. They are all dynamic. We had a chance to catch up with 2 of the 3 to get their thoughts on tonight's matchup. Enjoy.
Chad Jorgensen, Salt Lake Shred. Yeah, Colorado, we're all very excited to play them, honestly. They have a pretty recognizable offense, it feels like, and you know, they love to shoot deep, they're really fast, and they love big shots. So whatever we can do for that, which is, I think, just similar to what we did last time, really was effective. And yeah, we're planning to get a lot of breaks and take this game. When you're on the field playing and you are, especially on defense, having a big crowd that is yelling, that's loud, that's stomping, that sometimes someone brings like a drum in our stands. It's been really fun to have huge crowds here at Zions Bank Stadium, and it definitely plays a role in game time. But yeah, we're obviously very excited for championship weekend. We definitely want to make it. Winning these next couple games is really going to solidify some of our spots there. But yeah, there's definitely still a lot of work to go.
I'm McKay Jorgensen, and I play for the Salt Lake Shred. I think we have one of the best crowds in the league. You just feel the volume and the intensity that they bring. I think the biggest part is they can also feel when it's intense and when it's a big moment and they get loud. It gives you extra energy as you're playing. And so I would for sure say that they help us to win games here. I think we have a goal. I think all of our team has had the goal that we want to make Champ Weekend. For me, by no means do I think that it's locked in. I'm just focused on the next game. So for this week, it's Colorado. Then we have Minnesota, and then we move on from there. So I think if we continue to just work hard as we do as a team, then we can definitely get there. But we have to keep our focus that we've had throughout this season.
Over the past 3 seasons, the Salt Lake Shred have established one of the greatest home field atmospheres in the entire association. But the Colorado Summit are the only West Division visitor who have found a way to win multiple games at Zions Bank Stadium. Tonight, we are ready for another exhilarating evening of Ultimate on Friday Night Frisbee. Next. It's hot, it's sunny, it's Friday Night Frisbee coming at you. Tobias Brooks and the Colorado Summit were embarrassed on their home field last week. They didn't have to wait long for a rematch. It's the Summit and the Shred. Two of the top three teams in the West Division. They've both clinched their playoff spot. Salt Lake can earn the #1 seed with a victory here tonight. Salt Lake looking for their 10th consecutive win since their opening day loss to Atlanta. Here's the playoff looks if the season ended right now. And while the Boston Glory just punched their ticket to the #1 seed with a win over Philadelphia, the Phoenix now on the outside looking in the East. Huge game in the South tomorrow. Carolina hosting Atlanta. Also Minnesota and Madison. So many great games on WatchUFA.tv. We are delighted to have you with us here at Zions Bank Stadium alongside Ian Toner. I'm Evan Lepler, and Ian, these two teams, ever since they entered the league in 2022, have kind of brought out the best of each other, right? I mean, they love playing against each other, but they certainly don't like losing to the other team. And Colorado's had 7 days to digest what happened to them last week.
This series all time is now sitting at an even 4-4, and I know Salt Lake is in the better position for getting home field advantage totally locked up here for the rest of the playoffs, but Colorado has revenge on its mind, and they want to prove that last week was an aberration and that they're able to do something different stylistically to get themselves in this one.
Last time Tobias Brooks played here at Zions Bank Stadium, he was a member of the Carolina Flyers at championship weekend. Tonight he plays his third game as a member of the Colorado Summit, and Colorado didn't wait long to just heap buckets of responsibility on this 21-year-old's lofty shoulders.
Yeah, in his first game against Oakland, he just notched 74 completions, setting a single game in a regular season record, and they've been centering the disc to him all season long when he's been active. He's been taken off when he's had opportunities. He's no stranger to this field, having been here at championship weekend last year with the Carolina Flyers. I expect the Salt Lake Shred to apply a lot of physicality, just like they did last week, and I'm going to be very interested to see how Toby handles it and how he perseveres through that challenge tonight.
Our featured player on the other side is a guy who's not on a new team, but he is on a new line compared to last year. Chad Jorgensen has made his money as a D-line superstar. They've shifted him onto offense. He has become an MVP candidate with his dynamic play.
It's kind of unbelievable to have seen his transformation. Not that, we thought he didn't have this in him. He's kind of just reinvented his identity. And I think Coach Bryce Merrill has honestly assessed that, hey, our O-line needed some guys that weren't just concerned with preserving possession all the time. We needed folks who were able to stretch and take some shots and keep those defenses on their toes. And he has brought exactly that exciting, challenging element that this group has needed, especially doing things like that in the absence of Will Selfridge, who the Shred are excited to get back next week.
He's a really fun guy to watch. Matt Rusnagel coming off his best game of the season. Snog's revenge, as it was termed on UFA Instagram after what happened here last year. And there's McKay Jorgensen, the youngest of the Jorgensen boys. He's playing really great ultimate as well. Ian, let's talk about keys to the game tonight for both teams. Let's start with the Colorado Summit, the visitors from Golden.
Well, it's no secret that this team needs to better contest the deep shots. I expect them to do that both on the mark, maybe going with a single directional force as opposed to some of their more complicated marking schemes. I also expect them to push some players and receivers generally underneath and make sure they've got over-the-top help. They also need to be prepared to power through the physicality that Salt Lake is certainly going to bring. These guys are veterans in this league. They know what to expect. They know what they're going to bring. You can't let a few bumps derail you. Yes, it's frustrating, but be the bigger player and be ready to respond in the moment.
Salt Lake Shred, you see Nate DeMorgan, the young star out of Carleton College, in the lineup. You're talking about offensive spacing?
I mean, this is a group that has one of the best offensive units in the league when it's clicking. As long as they keep that spacing well disciplined, they are incredibly hard to provide help defense on, to slow down. Just look at the tape from last week for an example of that. One of the ways they do that, when the disc gets to the high side and there's a very large inside lane, they attack those inside lanes with chisel cuts, with hucks down that space. That is super important to that offense functioning well.
Opening pull presented by Pabst Light. We are underway from Salt Lake City, Utah. It's great to have you with us. Tobias Brooks immediately under pressure. Swings it to the sideline for Connor Olson. Back to Brooks, who zips it over to Seth Ferris. And he'll launch deep. The backhand with a couple targets. It's a perfect put, and Nanda Min Fink puts the Summit up 1-0. What a shot to start things off tonight. Honing missile from Seth Ferris.
I mean, his addition to this Summit O-line over the course of this season has been something to marvel at. We've seen him be kind of a O-prime player in the past. We've seen him stretch the field a few times as a D-line player, but these last couple games when he's had the ability to be that continuation hucker, he has seized the moment with real precision. And in these challenging wind conditions, that throw is a little more difficult than you might expect, and he's just putting things right in bread baskets left and right.
I mean, in 2022, he played 1 0 point. In 23, he played 7. In 24, he played 19. That was his 75th O point of the year. He's played exactly the same number of D points. And it's an early hold for the Colorado Summit. The Salt Lake offense was marvelous last week. As a team, the Shred had just 9 turnovers, matching their season low. Also just 9 turnovers in their opening day loss at Atlanta. The Shred have not lost since. Jordan Kerr. Back to McKay Jorgensen. Kerr being chased by Kai Marshall.
Jacob gives it up.
Braden Eberhard, unmarked. He was bumped, no whistle. Jordan Kerr, high release backhand to the end zone. And it's Chase Dunavile with the equalizer. 1-1.
Well, once Salt Lake got to the attacking side of midfield, they just started abusing that high side space. A lot of inside lane throws. And that's one of the keys that we wanted to focus on. I don't know if there was confusion on the mark with the goal throw there, or if Kai didn't really close in or get himself fully oriented, but this offense is off to a calm start tonight.
I want to give you a few points to watch, Ian, but I want you to be looking to see what Colorado might be shifting defensively these first few D points. Of course, they're back on offense now.
Well, as best I could tell on that opening point, that looked like a single directional force. And we know that their all-person defense employs multiple different forces over the course of a point. So that, if I was clocking that appropriately, that was a difference from last week, because we weren't seeing a whole lot of single direction force.
Good gainer from Min Fink to Quinn Feiner, and tight window for Zeke Thoresen. 3 Colorado Mama Bird products on this O-line. And Min Fink to Ferris.
4 if you count Feiner too.
That's right. I was thinking current.
Yeah, I know.
But that's another score. First it was Ferris to Min Fink, now the reverse. And it was a 27-second hold on the first O point. And 43 seconds off the clock this last time. 2 quick scores for Colorado.
Yeah, this offense is looking a lot better than it was, I'd say, early and mid points of this season. This is a group that had kind of a bad habit of just making a bunch of execution errors, some focus errors, and finding themselves in 4-1, 5-1 holes. So to see two really confident holds right off the bat, that's gotta send the right message to the rest of the group.
Former Pittsburgh Thunderbird Sam Van Dusen with a big lefty pull, and it's centered to Eberhard, quickly to Chad Jorgensen. He's picked up by Van Dusen, and he's bumped, and a free 10 yards for the shred.
Yeah, Van Dusen drawing the Chad Jorgensen matchup, and the blocks leader Kuhlman drawing the Rusnagel matchup after his career-high scoring performance last week.
One of the things that Tim Kafalis mentioned when we talked to him was how Noah Kuhlman did not feel good about his defensive performance last week and really was fired up to get another shot at the shred here tonight.
Fakes that deep up to Miller. Nice in cut by Chad. Low grab. Still able to pull it down.
And I'm not sure there's a better team in the league at offensive spacing than the Salt Lake Shred, in perfect rhythm, as if the defense wasn't even out there. It looked like a Salt Lake practice. Rusnagel in the end zone, 2-all.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about when these guys hold their space, make space for each other. They are able to get separation and have windows that appear uncontested and really shouldn't be. And you could just see, this is another point, Colorado making the adjustment, going a singular force the whole way, forcing backhand. But with the way that these Salt Lake cutters and even reset handlers keep their spacing disciplined, it's just so hard to peel anyone off and help in that space. And you're putting all of those guys on an island in lots of space.
Rusnagel's excellent season continues. Playing on the O-line for the Shred for the first time. He just caught his 38th goal. Tobias Brooks and a whistle from downfield. And this one's going back for Colorado.
Looks like offensive foul call, so they'll have to lose 10 yards.
All the way back to Brooks, and he'll be in his own end zone here.
Tobias Brooks pushing off of Sam Pugh, so they'll lose 10 yards.
20-year-old Sam Pugh marking 21-year-old Tobias Brooks, who rips it for Thoresen. Weinberg chasing. Who's going to make the play? Nobody.
Wow. When that huck went up, I thought it was a poor decision. Deeper into the trajectory, I kind of thought, wow, Thoresen's going to be able to leg that out, and the presence of Weinberg probably forced him to go up a little bit earlier.
Also downwind shot.
Yep.
Which took it further away from Thoresen. So the game's first turnover, right around 4.5 minutes in. Oscar Brown swings the disc to Sam Pugh.
We talked about this on last week's broadcast. If you know anything about Bryce Merrill's coaching philosophy, he's not like a lot of other coaches who are quick to use the timeout whistle here and get the O-line back out on the field. He wants to keep the opposing O-line out there and tire that unit out.
Nate DeMorgan, lefty backhand, connects. Huff with a quick reset.
I don't know if DeMorgan's huck was cleanly released.
Oh, but miscommunication on the goal line. Reed Browning not on the same page with Sam Pugh. And the break chance unfulfilled for Salt Lake.
But it's time for another defense chant. Let's get it back.
It's a tough one, Ian. I can understand the decision of the thrower to hit that space, and I think Pugh is trying to clear out and open up the stage for somebody else. Huck the other way, looking for Feiner. He's got big steps, but he can't read it and run it down. So the Summit, after Ferris hit the initial shot in this direction, have missed their last two, and they've had open cutters both times.
Yeah, that's a travel. Started walking it up to the line and then arbitrarily stopped without making it all the way up to the line.
Wonder if Bryce Merrill will let them play through this here. Oscar Brown able to get it off the back line.
Trapped in the back of the end zone. Let's see if we can get out of there. Nice throw to Reed.
Browning
Sam Pugh
to Pugh. Solid disc movement.
another fake up. Worked last time.
Morgan plays the safer shot this time, resets it. Salt Lake's been a successful hucking team all year long. That is gonna work, and Weinberg is in. First break of the night belongs to the Shred.
I mean, this is kind of too easy, the way Salt Lake was able to break on this final possession here. Just four side under, then mid-range four side shot. Like, you could tell the fatigue was weighing heavy on the Colorado O-line guys who were out there. And look at that, Brooks and Thorson are sprinting back to the line to play this O-point. Man, this is surprising decision making from Colorado in my mind.
Well, Capales did say that he thought the offense played well last week, and there were times where they put kind of their O-prime line on and they gave up a break as well. So I think he wants to trust the conditioning and skill of his top players. We'll see if it pays off. But to your point, that last point lasted 3 minutes and 34 seconds. Brooks initiates, marked by Moonga. They had a battle last week.
That point just didn't get started the way Colorado wanted it.
Here's Feiner, marked by LaRue. And they're going to call LaRue for the contact. Free 10 yards to Feiner and the Summit.
A little too much contact there, so they get 10 yards.
25 goals, 25 assists in 9 games this year for Feiner.
He needs a continuation swing cut a lot earlier there.
Gene again. Our defense is looking great.
Jams it up the sideline for Thorson.
And where's the? It's coming too late.
Is the issue the timing of the downfield cuts?
That's a part of it on this point, yes.
And yet, all's well that ends well on this particular point. Eric Hodling in the end zone, number 33, makes it 3-3.
Yeah, Hodling, a captain this season. One of the more fiery presences on this team, and I know the rest of the leadership group is looking for him to be an inspiration to this Summit squad tonight.
Colorado does put some of its offensive stars on the field for 2 straight points. They do get the hold. They don't let the break train out of the station just yet. Sam Van Dusen, the 31-year-old, the pull.
Wow. That was one heck of a pull, and it didn't go deep. It bladed and went out the near sideline.
One of our teammates, Brian Cook, who has done an admirable job running the gimbal camera, just hurt his knee down on the field. Hopefully he's okay. That's the reason for the slight delay. Brian is an invaluable member of our production team.
He's sprinting everywhere.
Works so hard every week.
Contact not on one of the players though, so we'll continue playing the game. Disc is in.
They Kay Jorgensen initiates back to Eberhard.
In cut by Rusnagel.
Here's Rusnagel. Chad Jorgensen, double teamed by Frood and Kuhlman, and he pivots around it. Up the line for Rusnagel, double team there, and Rusnagel again calmly gets it out of trouble.
It's kind of amazing how these last 2 weeks, every double team Colorado has set, Salt Lake's been able to get through it.
Off Rusnagel's hands, but it's the secondary receiver, Jace Dunabile, in the back of the end zone. He's ruled out of bounds. Kerr overthrew Rusnagel, and Dunabile could not corral it and keep it in. If he had caught it cleanly, he would have. First break chance goes awry quickly, and then Dunabile throws it away right on the goal line.
What is going on here? Timeout, Colorado.
Kafalis has seen enough, and the O-line is coming back on the field.
Sam Van Duzen's expression kind of says it all there. He knew what opportunity he missed.
All right, it's a timeout. You know what time it is?
The Ultimate Frisbee Association is presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer. The UFA also proud partners with True Leave, dedicated to enhancing lives through cannabis. Two Town Cider House, high quality ingredients, no shortcuts, bringing hard cider back to the people. And Victory Insoles, engineered for peak performance, energy, and recovery. Evan Lepler with Ian Toner and our entire crew. Friday Night Frisbee, week 12. We'll be back here in Salt Lake City next Friday night for an interdivisional showdown. The Minnesota Wind Chill are coming to Salt Lake. A lot of huge games across the Ultimate Frisbee Association these last 2 weeks of the regular season. Playoff spots and seasons on the line. Can Colorado convert their first break of the night? Good throw downfield, Elliott to Feiner. Continuation for Thoresen on the goal line. A lot of black shirts nearby. And what do we got? The disc hits the ground, but after a whistle, and the foul is going against the shred. So I think Thoresen's going to center the disc on the goal line.
I don't want to call that a gift because there was a foul, but lucky considering that Olsen dropped it.
Reset to Brooks. Tobias zips it to the corner, and Ferris with some fancy footwork keeps it in bounds. Heck of a first quarter for Seth Ferris, and Colorado's first break puts the Summit back on top.
I was just about to say the same thing. The way he's been able to stretch the field with his throws, but also be a reliable receiving target. You see Toby surveying his options, getting his eyes on Ferris, and he does a great job towing the line, staying in bounds. What a really nice addition he's been to this O-line, and you know, not the only reason, but part of the reason that he's continued to play there is because the young star Elliot Hawkins has a broken elbow. He was fitting in really nicely to the Summit O-line as well, and it's got to be a relief for Tim Kafalis to see Ferris fitting in so well with that group.
Injuries have certainly shaped the season for Colorado and hurt them. You know, no Alex Atkins here tonight. He's working his way back. No Keenan Lawrence, who we were really excited about in the preseason, the former Spider.
Hunter May pulled his groin in warm-ups tonight. And
yeah, we got a foul. Alex Piper on the mark, got disc and arm, and it goes back to Braden Eberhardt, who's now 2 seasons removed from his ACL injury. Eberhardt missed all of last year. Speaking of sitting out a season, it was nice to visit with Joe Merrill on the field before the game. He's taken on an assistant coaching role. And look, people say all the time Salt Lake is so fast, they're so well conditioned, they never get tired. Joe Merrill is the guy that creates the sprinting workouts for this franchise and is a huge part of the reason why they all look so fast, including the oldest guy on the team, 32-year-old Matt Rusnagel. He's still young, but compared to the rest of the shred, he is the veteran. They call him the uncle.
Yeah, Joe Merrill, a athletic trainer by trade, and sharing those talents with this group. And I mean, you can just see the pep in the step of the downfield route runners and the defensive pursuers, and exciting end of quarter situation brewing here with 33 seconds left to go in the first.
One break per side so far.
And the disc is up.
One of Bryce Merrill's concerns coming into the season, he knew they were fast, but he also knew that his team wasn't that tall. They didn't have a ton of size. These end of quarter situations are sometimes where that is a factor. Scuba to space, well placed by Min Fink. Thoresen right back to Nanda. This may not be a buzzer beater. Colorado's got plenty of time. The question is, do they want to intentionally take their time? Of course, they want to make sure they score. And this is looking dicey all of a sudden as Brooks bobbles it, and they're down to 5 seconds, and it's deflected and an incomplete pass. And DeMorgan is going to catch it up the line, but he doesn't have a chance to unleash it before time expires. And first quarter will conclude 4 apiece.
Second time in as many weeks that Brooks has tried to fire a crossfield hammer in a end of quarter situation, and it hasn't worked.
It's a tremendous crowd on site tonight in Salt Lake City, Utah. One of the marquee atmospheres in all of Frisbee. Colorado and Salt Lake, 4 apiece after 1 on Friday night. On the green stage, huge bid, gets the touch.
It's a great opportunity for the Germans, and they break with ease.
Throw it the full 80 yards to the field. Are you kidding me? An incredible catch. You are kidding me. Oh my God. Throw like a pro with the new Pro Ultimate Frisbee. Created with input from the sport's premier passers, the Pro Frisbee is specially designed to fly through the wind and maintain its edge. Experience the official Frisbee of the UFA and get yours at shopufa.com today. Well, last week at Colorado, the Summit were outscored in all 4 quarters. They're already off to a better start tonight. It's 4-4 after 1. Salt Lake on 0 to start the second. Ian, what do you think about Colorado's mentality that they've brought to the field so far tonight?
I'm overall liking what I'm seeing so far. There's a few O choices that I would have loved them to think a little differently about, but they very much appear to be in the fight here.
Dumps it back for a reset. Nice movement by our handlers, making sure we get a good throw up. Jace now with the disc.
Duna Biles been the guy that's flexed back and forth this season between O and D. Salt Lake does expect to have Will Selfridge back next week. Zeke Thorson comes up empty, and Jordan Kerr shoots it, and Duna Bile unable to haul it in with Jay Frood's footsteps lurking. Frood didn't get disc, but he certainly impacted the play.
No question about it, and Dunabile tapping his chest, he certainly got a hand on it, but I don't know, I think he had more separation, and Kerr hung that a lot more than he intended to. Last week we were seeing so many of those throws just with no defenders even having a chance to make a play on.
Noah Kuhlman grabbing the back of his leg, coming off the field, taking an injury sub. Eberhard left, placed by, I believe, Sam Pugh. Thorson to Brooks. Brooks ripping it. Matty Jackson just shy of the goal line. He thought he was in, but I think it's coming back. It was a travel and about 50 yards coming off the board here for the Summit.
And travel was called on the initial throw. McKay on the mark.
So all the way back on their own side of the field after it looked like Matty Jackson was one short dish away from the break. Van Dusen for Thorson. Here's Matty Jackson. Longtime veteran, throws it away. Blocked by McKay Jorgensen in the backfield.
McKay Jorgensen with the D. McKay picks it up, dumps it back to Kerr, and continuation swing to Rusnagel.
Near the sideline, it's Pugh. Back to McKay. Here's Chad.
That's one of those back breaker throws from McKay that.
And between Chad, McKay, and Snog, Salt Lake having its way. We got to go back to that travel call, though, because it took away a 50-yard shot and a likely score for a Summit team that's typically pretty reliable in the red zone. Third goal for Rusnagel, by the way. 1, 2, 3.
So here's Brooke.
We'll go back. We'll see it again. 9:32 to play in this first half. And a whistle right as the pole was launched. Not sure if it was a delay of game or offside. Players look just as confused as we do here in the booth.
Is it offside on Colorado?
Apparently. Looks like Joe Strong, the head official, made the call.
Looks like they're playing it from where it lands. We get to set up. No, that can't be right. I believe we still get the disc, pulling to them, but we pull it from midfield.
Not sure if it was offside on Colorado or delay of game on Colorado.
Offsides call or something else happened. Usually this happens when there's an offside.
So Salt Lake, I think, is going to re-pull from 10 yards ahead of the ends of the normal pull spot. So they're 10 yards shy of midfield. There's no specific 30-yard marker on this field.
So it looks like they get to move up 10 yards and pull for a little bit further. And so
a lot to do about nothing, really. Mishandling the pull receive, though. Alex Piper misplayed it. Ferris with a good gainer. Brooks to Feiner. Brooks goes down in the reset space. Feiner gets it to the secondary man, Piper. Downfield, tough catch near the sideline, and Minfink, was that a leaping throw as he was running out of bounds?
Looked like it. I thought he maybe kept his left toe down.
Quinn Finer's in the end zone. Check this out. It is legal to throw in the air if it's before your third point of ground contact. So if he goes one, because normally if you jump and throw it to travel.
Hard. I can't tell from that replay. There we go. That one.
It's a score in the scorebook.
Awfully close. You could see his toe was definitely off the ground.
Thank you, boosters.
All right. This game's lost a little bit of its feel and flow.
Yep.
And the disc is up. Our O-line back on the field. Score is tied.
Noah Kuhlman is still on the sideline, I believe.
To Jacob.
No, he's back in the field, which is huge for Colorado. He's downfield on Chad Jorgensen.
I encourage you guys to see if you can count
Kerr.
to 5.
And Dunabile going deep. Now Jace coming back under. Kuhlman sets the mark. Chad floats it a little bit, but McKay adjusts. McKay points and puts. He underthrew it, and it's incomplete.
I think Hodling got a fingertip on it at the point of release to help defender in the area.
Another break chance. Kuhlman skyballs it. This is coming back due to a foul on the throw, I think.
Whistle is blown.
Yes, we are going to get the foul.
Foul may have been called on
The sideline official.
Yeah, that was awfully late.
He pulled down his arm.
Yeah.
And then blew the whistle like 3 seconds later.
Yeah. So Jorgensen's close.
I mean, the whistle has to come as soon as Jordan Kerr makes this catch.
I don't disagree with now that I see the replay, I don't disagree with Jorgensen protesting quite as strongly as he is.
Noah Coleman with the disc. Kuhlman, excuse me.
Van Dusen lets it rip. Over the head of Jordan Kerr and into the end zone. Colorado breaks and Logan Preuss has the score.
I mean, that is Sam Van's bread and butter. Stepping into a backhand rip in some variable wind conditions and making distance look like it doesn't matter. Putting the disc on a platter. Beautiful shot from the former Thunderbird.
And nearly 200 career assists for Van Dusen. He's been making shots like that for a long time. And Logan Preuss, his second year with the Summit after a great tenure with the Madison Radicals, part of the 2018 Radicals championship team. A couple of old Central Division boys tag teaming for that break score for Colorado. They got a lot of transplants that come to the Rocky Mountains, whether it's from the South Division, all the former Dallas guys with Frood and Jackson and Marshall and Olson.
Oh no, it's an offensive foul for push-off from Nate.
The crowd doesn't like the call, and it's going against DeMorgan in Salt Lake. Nate DeMorgan, a Utah native, incredibly talented young kid, just 19 years old. He just turned 19 a month ago. This is his 5th UFA game. He's coming off his best performance, 5 assists, 2 goals and a block against Vegas.
And we're back to where we were anyway. Chad with the disc.
Chad Jorgensen up the line to McKay. McKay was bumped. And they called a 10-yard foul on Hodling. Up the line, Chad Jorgensen floating into the end zone.
That's too easy for this Salt Lake offense. Colorado's defense wants to find a way to apply more pressure, especially when they're going that single directional force. And if you just keep getting beat up that force sideline multiple times, it's like the foundation of your defense right there. Well,
I was laughing out loud listening to Chuck Kindred last week, begging Mama Jorgensen not to have any more kids. There are 8 Jorgensen children, 6 boys and 2 girls. Luke is the oldest of the 3 that play for the Shred, but there are 4 older Jorgensen siblings that don't play Frisbee on the Shred. And then there's Luke and Chad and McKay, and then the youngest daughter is younger than McKay. At one point, before the last daughter came around, there were six boys and 1 girl, as Feiner can't make the play. They said they were praying for another girl, and they got their wish. It's quite a crew. Mama Jorgensen delivering chocolate chip cookies to you and me before the game with a smile on her face in incredibly kind fashion.
I don't know what we did to deserve that.
Me neither, but the cookies look delicious. Jean Leroux shoots it into the end zone, some contact, Forsberg goes down, and there's the whistle.
It looks like there was a foul call. So
Wow, Forsberg exceptionally upset with Thorson for this one.
The foul happened in the end zone.
I mean, there's no doubt Thorson fouled him. I think it was just feet getting tangled while they were both looking up in the air.
Forsberg resets.
Alex gets double teams.
And then Forsberg left all alone, and that's a bad look for the Summit D. An easy Shred break. Alex Forsberg, 24 years old, out of the University of Utah, with his first of the night. See you later.
Summit, I was going to say, just Summit defender just going the other way.
Forsberg, one of the guys that in the preseason Bryce Merrill said, we need Alex to step up. And you know, you think about all the pieces that Salt Lake lost, from Sean Cannell, who left to go to Atlanta. You know, you talked about Grant Lindsley, and I mean, Elijah Jaime was such an important part of this team. Ben Fields, Simon Dastrup. I mean, there's a lot of talent that departed, and Bryce Merrill did say to us, yeah, the way things are going right now is kind of the best case scenario of what I envisioned. I knew we had athletes. We just had a lot of young guys that didn't have a ton of experience, and a lot of guys have stepped up.
That's a testament to everything he and Eric Holt and Joe Merrill have done from the depths of the offseason all the way until now, maximizing the value and optimizing the pieces that they have in the right spots.
One of the better offensive possessions of the game for Colorado culminates with Tobias Brooks finding Tim Elliott in the end zone, 7 apiece. 3:32 to play in the half. Summit are hanging in here.
Yeah, I love the patience from the group on this point, and they can do some more of that. They'll keep themselves in this one. I think the trouble's coming when they get themselves kind of stagnant near a sideline and they're not getting the bounce and then the next throw off the line. Talking to Tim Kafalis over the course of this season, he said he's wanted his resets to mean something. Let's just not get a fresh stall count. If we're going to lose yardage, let's make sure that we're losing yardage so that we can set up the next swing that gains yards or opens up another part of the field. Or even better, let's have our reset be upfield in the front of the stack attacking position.
Matty Jackson set that up, anticipated it beautifully, and creates the break chance for Colorado. Totaling to Jackson. Van Dusen to space, and Kuhlman is there. Colorado's already got more breaks tonight than all of last week when they were at home in a 6-goal loss to the Shred.
And you can hear that score has kind of sucked the life out of the stadium here in Harriman. This is a crowd that's normally boisterous and on its feet and energetic. And right now, all we're hearing is the bass of the in-stadium music, because the Summit have put together a little momentum shifter here. Can they build on it? Can they sustain it? That's the big question right now.
Well, these two teams came into the UFA at the exact same time for the 2022 season. They were rivals immediately. I mean, played some thrilling back and forth games. Colorado won the West in 22. Salt Lake won the West in 23. It was the Seattle Cascades that stunned the Shred last year in the playoffs. Bobbled by DeMorgan, but he hangs on. We know the playoff teams in the West. We don't know the seeding yet. That's a gorgeous shot that Chad Jorgensen runs down. He floats it for Rusnagel, who's there. Fourth of the night for Snog, the former Marine.
I mean, this man's just a problem downfield. He's timing well. He's spacing well. He's obviously in shape to get the separation. It's really incredible to watch him have this. I don't even know if a renaissance is the right term, because it's some of the best Frisbee he's ever played in his career. And I think I said this on last week's broadcast. It's unbelievable to think about his evolution in his time as a member of the Shred. Starting as a guy who was just trying to crack the top 20, maybe being a D-line guy, bringing a humble workhorse attitude, and now being one of the most assertive O-line cutters out there.
And even before his time with the Shred, right? I mean, I mentioned it on the Swing Pass podcast.
Yeah.
10 years ago, he tried out for the San Diego Growlers and got cut. And, you know, at that point, he was 22 years old. He never knew if he'd play in the Ultimate Frisbee Association.
Sure.
He's kept on working. He has filled a role masterfully for the Salt Lake offense. Colorado did not think that their O-line was the primary problem last week. And so far tonight, this group has been pretty solid as well. Not perfect. And an error there. Trying to squeeze it through to Olsen.
Yeah, I thought Forsberg was going to get called for a foul on the mark, but not the case.
Great chances aplenty. Clock ticking toward a minute to go as Maunga shoots it. Shy of the goal line. Oh, Jeremiah Branson gives it away. Salt Lake had 2 timeouts to use.
Kimball Pugh had it in his hand right there and just got a little too excited in the red zone.
Now Colorado's going to use its final timeout with just over a minute to play in this opening half. Been a pretty compelling first half, as it usually is when these two teams get together.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the stats in halftime, but one thing that's jumping out to me right away.
I can hold that thought in.
Yeah, perfect. Let's put Coleman in like positive dump. So he's just going before the whistle. CT secondary. I'll be the one to fill. Give me Zeke at the back. Come under, far side, sets before for the 2 to help me fight. We got to cut to make space. Right. Yes. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. 1 minute. Legs on 2. 1, 2.
Well, we were talking in the pregame show about Quinn Finer needing to be a leader for this group, and that's exactly what we saw in the huddle. The question is, how well is the group going to be able to execute this play call? How well is Salt Lake going to be able to sniff some of this out?
Tobias Brooks with a long way to go. Under a minute in the first half. Colorado with a golden opportunity to take the lead into the halftime locker room, and they give it away. Elliott swing knocked down by Browning, who just gives it right back, rifling it out the back of the end zone. Clock should stop under a minute, 40 seconds for the Summit to go 80 yards.
So that turnover, time stops because it's within a minute.
Salt Lake has had a handful of those tonight. One from Dunabile on the other end zone line. Uncharacteristic for the shred, and Ferris launches for Thoresen. That one into the wind. Zeke makes the adjustment. Plenty of time for Colorado, though remember what happened at the end of the first. Quinn Finer can't get there, and he's shaken up.
Injury on the field and a turnover.
I'm just so used to seeing Quinn Finer make this play. It's kind of stunning that it eluded him.
Time will go back to 20 seconds. So the shred will have a chance.
Yeah, it's
Ben Ashton
just a tough overthrow.
his end zone.
A couple red zone situations at the end of quarters. Colorado can't convert.
Can't fault him. No lack of effort there.
Not at all. All right, 20 seconds on the clock for the shred. Does Bryce
Wow.
Merrill use a
A
timeout?
lot of physicality downfield between Chad Jorgensen and Seth Ferris. It looked like Chad just kind of pancaked Seth Ferris, but I don't know how much Seth Ferris sold it.
Timeout will be called by the shred.
Salt Lake has taken a timeout, and we'll look through our angles and see if we can see what happened. I missed it. I'm glad you caught it. You know, seems to be a pretty respectful conversation between Jorgensen and Ferris there.
Rice, Coach Merrill is on the field, so I think they did use a timeout.
Yeah, that was something else. Physicality starting to
We would like to thank Advanced Sports
get the
Orthopedics
better
for their sponsorship.
of
For the last 10
Chad
years,
Jorgensen's
Advanced Sports
emotions.
Orthopedics have been elevating care for both athletes and the community. Advanced has 2
right
locations and has 7
there.
dedicated positions.
On replay, granted, we don't see the whole interaction and we can't see the whole of both of their bodies. On replay, that looks like Ferris is doing a little bit to sell it there.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly Foreman versus Holyfield.
Right, which I wouldn't expect Chad Jorgensen to do.
Okay, time starts. 20
Out of the corner of my eye live, it looked a little more intense.
Kai Marshall with the interception. 13 seconds. Ferris cross field for Kuhlman in the end zone. Colorado takes the 9-8 lead. What a crazy last point this has been.
This has been just a wild half. We've had turnovers galore. We've had a few injuries. We've had some uncharacteristic errors. We've had just kind of strange sequences.
Quinn Finer not coming up on it with a disc on a bid.
Yeah, and now here we are, Colorado up by 1, and they're going to have to defend an end of quarter situation. And it looks like the referees have reset the clock. We've got 9 seconds left to go here in the half.
9 seconds to go. Salt Lake's got 9 turnovers in the half, as many as they had all game last week.
O-line.
McKay Jorgensen looking. Precious seconds ticking away. And it seems like the shred aren't even going to try. Jordan Kerr, I don't know if he got it off. I don't think he did. This is into the wind, and it's shy of the goal line, and it's ripped down by Van Dusen. Colorado, 1 week after losing at home by 6 to the first place Shred, have a 1-goal lead at the half here tonight on Friday Night Frisbee.
Right, that's halftime. Colorado is up by
The
1.
Summit have
We've
to
got a
be
lot of game left to play.
pretty happy with themselves and the fight that they've put together, getting up off the mat after last week's beatdown. The question about this team all season long has been consistency. Can they find a way to execute for 4 quarters? Can they overcome a tough 4 or 5 goal spell? I like what I'm seeing now, but there's still a lot of game left.
There sure is. Half of it, perhaps more, if I get my birthday wish. 9-8 Colorado leads at the half on Friday Night Frisbee here in Salt Lake City. It's a great time to crack open another Friday night six-pack presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer, as we dive into 6 big games on tap tomorrow and Sunday here in the UFA. Number 1, we got to start with the UFA game of the week, Boston at DC, 7 p.m. opening pull from Carlini Field. Obviously, just last week, DC went up to Boston and handed the Glory their first loss of the season. Boston did win earlier this year in DC, so this is the rubber match. Glory need one victory this weekend to clinch the 1 seed. It could happen Friday night in Philly. It could happen Saturday night in DC, but the Breeze certainly in the thick of the playoff chase. Huge rubber match between the Glory and the Breeze. Certainly a potential East Division playoff preview. Again, this is the UFA game of the week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday night. Number 2, also 7 p.m., the South's oldest rivalry with so many storylines. It's Atlanta and Carolina meeting for the 4th and final time during the regular season. The Hustle could eliminate their biggest rival from playoff contention if they could pull off the road win, but Carolina has won 5 in a row, and that includes a home win over Atlanta last month. Now, Austin and San Diego, 2 other playoff contenders in the South, will for sure be watching this game closely too. Growlers clinch a playoff spot if Atlanta wins. Seoul in better position for the top seed if Carolina wins. So a lot of ramifications. 7 p.m. Hustle, Flyers, let's go. Number 3, let's stay in the South with the Austin Soul. They're hosting Los Angeles at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Saturday night. And if the Flyers beat Atlanta, the Soul can take down the Aviators and clinch the number 1 seed for the South Division playoffs. But remember, the Soul traveled to the West Coast earlier this year. They needed a Kyle Henke to Jackson Potts buzzer beater to sneak away with a 1-goal win at LA. So the Aviators know they can play tight with the Soul. Let's see if they can try to spring the upset on the road Saturday night. Number 4, a big game in the Central Division, and it's actually a preview of a first-round playoff game that is already set just a couple weeks from now between the Madison Radicals and the Minnesota Wind Chill. Minnesota's at home. They could very likely clinch the 2 seed and home field advantage for that opening round game if they can hold serve this week. But the Radicals hunting the upset, dreaming of hosting another playoff thriller at Bree Stevens Field like they did last year, winning in double overtime against Chicago. To earn that playoff date, Madison must win at Minnesota Saturday night. Opening pull at 7 Eastern, 6 Central from Seafoam Stadium in St. Paul. Number 5, the only UFA game on Sunday is a massive matchup in the East Division. Philadelphia traveling to New York for a 1 p.m. afternoon opening pull. It's the only game of the weekend for the Empire, who currently sit at 5-5. Phoenix, of course, a half game ahead of New York at the start of the weekend. Philly also has their Friday battle with Boston prior to Sunday's showdown in New York. Everything super tight in the East Division. New York narrowly edged the Phoenix in Philly earlier this year. Phoenix looking to return the favor on Sunday afternoon. Lastly this week, number 6. Not a matchup between current championship contenders, but there's still something intriguing about the 1-8 Detroit Mechanix and the 2-8 Indianapolis AlleyCats squaring off Saturday evening in Indiana. Detroit's lone victory did come on the road at Pittsburgh. Mechanix have never won at Indy before. Could they change that Saturday night? It's a 6 p.m. opening pull to whet your appetite for the higher profile games perhaps. But keep an eye on the Mechanix and the AlleyCats. As you know, you'll see two teams desperately trying to seize the opportunity to get a late season win and looking to grab a little positive vibes that go with it heading into the final week of the regular season. That's it for the Friday Six Pack for Week 12 in the UFA, and it's been presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer. On the green stage, huge bid, gets the
It's a
touch.
great opportunity for the Germans, and they break with ease.
Throw it the full 80 yards to the field. Are you kidding me? And an incredible catch. You are kidding me. Oh my God. Throw like a pro with the new Pro Ultimate Frisbee. Created with input from the sport's premier passers, the Pro Frisbee is specially designed to fly through the wind and maintain its edge. Experience the official Frisbee of the UFA and get yours at shopufa.com today. Cool scene on the field here at halftime at Zions Bank Stadium. I mean, feels like hundreds of young Ultimate players, future stars in the UFA perhaps, on the field for a little halftime clinic, run around, chase plastic, and what a night it has already been here at Zions Bank Stadium. It's 9-8 Colorado leading the hometown Salt Lake Shred. I want to jump into these first half numbers, Ian, because Salt Lake got the first break, but they couldn't really create separation. We've been kind of trading breaks back and forth. Colorado, with the last laugh, takes the 9-8 lead into the half. A half that feels very different from what we saw in the Rockies last Friday night.
Yeah, no question. When I think about the stats that Salt Lake finished with at the end of last week, they were 11 of 13 on Hucks last week. They're just 2 of 5 on the deep ball so far tonight. Part of that is because of the defensive tweaks that Colorado has made, doing a little more single directional force and staying behind a lot more receivers downfield. Also, turnovers, you pointed this out live. They've got 10 turnovers tonight, the Shred do. They had 9 through the entire game last night. last week, I should say.
Yeah.
So this is a team that's not executing quite as efficiently as it was, and I'd say part of that is due to Colorado's adjustments, and part of that is due to the offense just not being quite as crisp, and the D-line offense not being quite as crisp as well.
Yeah, Salt Lake has given a few break chances away. You see just 2 of 6 on the D-line conversions.
Yeah, and one other stat we want to make sure to mention. You made a passing reference right before we went to half, but we want to make sure everyone watching knows that today is Evan Lepler's birthday. We're very lucky to be able to celebrate with him live on the air. Hope you caught some of the celebration in our pregame show, but if not, we've got some other footage.
What?
Of
what is
we've
this?
got some other footage of Evan getting some gifts from the Shred and Summit squads.
Yeah,
customized jerseys.
Those are cool. I love them. Thanks to the Shred and the Summit franchises. It's funny because my father actually had the idea. He said, for your 40th birthday, I'm going to get you some UFA jerseys, because I got my dad, when he turned 65, a Boston Glory jersey, number 65 Lepler, because my dad grew up in Boston.
That's awesome.
He wanted to return the favor, and I'm like, no, I can't play favorites. I have, so I guess now I just need a jersey from all 22 other teams, so I can play it fairly.
I hope the owners are listening. You've got your homework before championship weekend or the owners meeting.
A full number 40 set, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to start wearing these during podcasts and showing out back in North Carolina. They're cool jerseys. So
no doubt about it. Great work by the B Ultimate team.
And yeah, it's special to be at this stadium any day, but to celebrate, this milestone, both as a human and as a broadcaster in an atmosphere in a venue like this, can't ask for more.
Word is we've got north of 1,200 here tonight, so
yeah,
great.
Surprised it's not more, quite frankly.
Yeah,
the stands across the way are literally standing room only right now. I mean, there's no extra place to sit, and we'll see if the Salt Lake Shred players can send the Shredhead fans home happy.
All right, crowd, let's get loud. We're on defense.
Tobias Brooks was solid in the first half, not perfect. Could say the same thing about the Colorado offense. Min Fink shoots it for Thoresen, accelerating past Weinberg. Still work to do on the possession. Reset for Elliott, and he throws it into the ground. Are you kidding me?
And that's a turnover.
Man, that's a killer miscue, especially if Salt Lake can make them pay.
Yeah, you just got to take the time to set your feet. I've felt the urgency to just do the step through backhand while you've got momentum and the defense is on the run. I know what that feels like.
Oh, that's low, but it's caught by Reed. Whistle.
Get a foul on the mark. Browning put the disc down thinking it was a timeout. Not a timeout yet.
Yeah, come on, Reed. You know your coach better than that. He wouldn't do you like that at the start of the second half.
Took a couple, went 15 yards upfield instead of 10. Still needs to find the right spot.
And now this is in.
And a huge layout, but we got a foul contact on the mark. Connor Olson, full extension layout. I'm not sure that's a foul. Salt Lake's going to maintain the disc for the moment. This is Oscar Brown. Nathan Huff. It's a pick.
So
Whistles aplenty.
I was going to say, now we're calling everything at the start of the second half. I wonder if this is the ref's attempt to kind of reassert control and clarify the boundaries through the rest of the second half.
Part of the strategy in not calling a timeout is to force this Colorado O-line to defend. Bryce Merrill told us explicitly they want the guy that Tobias Brooks is guarding to have to play, to make Toby play D, to make him do 50, 60-yard sprints multiple times over the course of an O-point, to try to wear him down. Ashton is the open man underneath. DeMorgan looking end zone. Oscar Brown is there. Colorado throws it into the ground on the goal line with a chance to lead by 2, and Salt Lake capitalizes.
Yeah, that's an O-point that the Summit are going to want back, and Ferris, Minfink, Thorson, Olsen all gassed. And they're stepping off as this O-Prime-esque line comes on. Great work by the Shred, making the Summit pay and being really efficient after that turnover.
You could say this about a lot of D-lines, but like Salt Lake was missing a guy like Nate DeMorgan to confidently take that finishing shot, put it perfectly, the vision, the execution. This, by the way, is our 9th tie of the night.
And this is up. Gene with another perfect ball.
3 breaks apiece. Long way to go. Brooks stays out there. So does Feiner. Underneath for Kuhlman. Feiner with a big swing. Alex Piper resets for Jay Frood. Matty Jackson a leaping grab. And he rips a forehand deep into traffic. Feiner unable to haul it in. Broken up by Kimball Pugh, and Feiner gave all he could.
Yeah, that's fantastic help defense. Pugh was not the assigned defender who had followed Quinn on the underneath. He peeled off from another defensive position in the stack and made the critical play there, and Colorado's offense really in jeopardy, in danger of surrendering 2 breaks to start the second half.
Chad Jorgensen going deep. We get a bump on the mark. 10 free yards for Salt Lake. Disc in the hands of Luke Jorgensen. 27 years old. He's the eldest of the 3 Jorgensen brothers on the team. To the end zone. What a catch! Kimball Pugh! Spectacular bookends to give the Shred the lead.
That's got to be the highlight of Kimball Pugh's career at this point. The rookie getting the deep block on Quinn Feiner and then stretching the field after the turn with the heroic layout clap catch. And I mean, Colorado is now going to keep Feiner and Brooks out there for the 3rd consecutive point here at the start of the second half. I know they're talented. I don't question that. These guys have just been running nonstop. I don't know that that's the choice that sets your group up for success in this moment. I'm happy to be proven wrong.
It's a fair critique. We will see what happens. Kimball Pugh, 21-year-old, out of Lone Peak High School, coached by Jacob Miller and Braden Eberhard, and Youth Club Championships. This feels like a massive point for Colorado. They've already surrendered back-to-back breaks.
You could just hear how the crowd has completely come back into this one.
Ferris, tight window. Nanda lefties it into the end zone for the conversion. And we are tied for the 10th time tonight.
I mean, the windows were tight and they were small, but this group knows how to hit those. They know that, hey, I'm looking for that really shallow chisel, that really shallow slash. I'm going to have somebody hitting me with a gut shot with an inside-out flick with nothing to run onto, and it's just going to get there right away.
Van Dusen pulls at 10-all. Braden Eberhard working in the backfield with McKay Jorgensen.
They're just going to move it back and forth as the two on the mark are really trying to stop those quick.
By the way, there are 8 Jorgensen kids. There are currently 17 grandkids with 2 more on the way. So
that's a whole lot of Christmas shopping.
Yes, it is.
Jacob comes back to help.
Maybe Mama Jorgensen's taking advantage of Prime Day and the Prime Day deals this week.
You would think so.
Who knows?
Patient possession here for Salt Lake. To the middle, and the disc is loose.
Yeah, that was a foul from Coleman.
They're going to call that a shrip. Van Dunebile stopped rotation. I don't know that he did.
Well, I don't know that it was a strip, but I thought Kuhlman made contact with Dunebile's arm at least. That's what I thought I saw live from up here in the booth.
I did see the elephant trunk signal, which is the signal for a strip. And Jordan Kerr's in the end zone for Salt Lake. Throws a souvenir into the crowd. Nice snag. Even the Salt Lake fans got game. Not surprising considering all the talent in Utah, but do we have a replay of that sky? McKay to Kerr. .5:29 to play in the third. Earlier tonight, Boston over Philly, 15-14. Phoenix have a huge game Sunday at New York. If they lose it, and if DC beats Boston tomorrow, that would eliminate the Phoenix after their inspiring season. They got off to a 3-0 start, shocking everybody.
Pushed Boston to the brink today.
They got to turn the page quick though. Finer launches, didn't really have a cutter.
He's looking for the foul
and he's
on the
gonna
throw.
Get it. He's going to get it. Hit from behind.
All right, defense, let's go! Oh,
Finer and Brooks. If you start an O-line with just those 2 guys, you imagine you're in pretty good hands.
Another whistle blown.
You add in
A lot of contact
other
going on
speedsters
field.
like Thoresen and Min Fink. Colorado's kind of consistently tweaking their unit, trying to find the best combination. You know, one of the blessings and curses of being in a place where there's so much great college talent coming out of the University of Colorado. In the UFA, you often don't get those players prioritizing your team until after college nationals, and sometimes that leads to some unevenness. Another break chance here for the Shred. Speaking of college talent, Nate DeMorgan resets it back. Luke Jorgensen over to Jeremiah Branson.
Looks to Tony. Tony looks up Nate.
Tony Mulunga.
Down, stall count rising.
And he's bumped by Finer.
Call on the field.
Blew the whistle before the advantage.
Tony keeps possession
So it goes back to Munga.
And in the red zone,
Tony, backhand, Forsberg, got it. First multi-goal lead of the night for either side.
That is one heck of a throw from Munga. I mean, very little margin for error. The speedster Zeke Thoresen defending and closing in, and I mean, if Forsberg isn't that tall and lanky, I don't know if that gets caught, but wow. What a throw to such a small window.
Colorado has had 4 0 points here in the second half. They've scored once. They've been broken 3 times.
This is a group that's really just got to find a way to stabilize. I mean, this was the question that I asked going into halftime.
Yeah.
Were we going to find some sense of consistency with this group? And so far in the second half, we're not seeing it.
Beginning this possession in Callahan country. Hodling zips it out of the end zone, and Kuhlman shoots it. Matty Jackson through the contact, makes the catch, bumped by Brown. Matt Jackson, 36 years young, still making athletic plays. Out of the University of Arkansas, he debuted for the undefeated Dallas team 2016. 9 years ago. Into the end zone for another former Dallas standout, Jay Frood, with that score from Quinn Finer. Jay Frood had some insane statistical seasons in the UFA, both as a member of the Madison Radicals and with the Dallas Roughnecks. Jay is currently 10th all-time in plus-minus. And back in 2022 against Salt Lake, he went plus 14 as a member of the Summit. 7 assists, 4 goals, 3 blocks. It was the second best single game plus-minus in the UFA for the entire 22 season.
2:20 to play in the third quarter.
Best plus-minus in a game this year, plus 13. Don DeMarais in Pittsburgh last Saturday.
And despite all of those accomplishments, Jay is still chasing that elusive UFA championship. I want to see him get one before his playing days wrap up.
He has the ignominious distinction, kind of like the Buffalo Bills. He's lost 3 championship games. 2015 with the Radicals, losing to the Spiders. 2018 he was with Dallas, lost to the Radicals. 2019 with Dallas, beaten by the Perfect Empire.
Yeah, that one was a heartbreaker because Jay pulled his hamstring in that final.
Nice force cut by McKay.
1 goal game late in the third.
Back to Braden. Back to McKay. Back to Braden.
Eberhard.
Whistle blown.
And we got a whistle downfield. It's a contact call on the stack. And a free 10 yards for the Shred. Salt Lake will receive to start the 4th.
Nice quick movement up to McKay on the doorstep.
McKay,
Stall count rising. We'll have to
and
dump it
he's
back.
really young too,
Quick give and go.
but he's just so steady. And Rusnagel's relentless. And the Shred lead by 2 again. McKay Jorgensen was an incredible high school basketball point guard here in Utah. And he just has this calm demeanor of a floor general out here in the UFA.
That's a great analogy, and what a gift it's been to the Salt Lake goal line, just continuing to get stronger throughout this season.
Hey, watch for that if I come.
5 more goals for Matt Rusnagel. The clip that the UFA posted on Instagram was Rusnagel chasing after Alex Atkins when Atkins caught the attempted buzzer beater to win the game here for Colorado in the regular season last year. I asked Rusnagel before the game, what were you trying to do before the referee had to hold you back? He said, I was just trying to get the disc. He wasn't going to spike that disc anymore. He's like, I wasn't looking for a fight. He's a former Marine. He's seen some fights in his life. He said he's broken up more than he's been involved in. That's a gorgeous put, and Feiner lays out to bring it in. And Colorado, oh my goodness, gives it away on the goal line.
Whew. How many more red zone turnovers are we going to see from Colorado here in the second half?
The third quarter began with a red zone giveaway, and it looks like it's going to end with one for the Summit as well. And those two plays, if you want to look back at the Tim Elliott turf and this poor play on the goal line there between Feiner and Mint-Fink. Again, the Shredder going to receive to start the fourth. Could they go up by 3 here to close out the third? Kimball Pugh with 7, shoots it, got a man deep in the end zone. My goodness! Alex Forsberg from Kimball Pugh.
And I mean, Tim Kafalis just threw his clipboard. His papers are everywhere on the sideline. If that doesn't encapsulate the frustration that the Summit experienced this quarter, I don't know what does.
I mean, there's a little bit of contact with LaRue, but it's Pugh that gets his hand on the block. And then the dime to Forsberg with 3 seconds to go in the third. Have a night, Kimball Pugh. Three goals for Forsberg. Pugh had the bookends earlier. The D and the dime here. Colorado is reeling. Remember, the Summit were up 1 at the half. Van Dusen gets it to Brooks. He didn't get it off, but the officials haven't waved it off. So maybe this will count, and it's incomplete. I saw zeros on the clock when Brooks had it in his hands, but the officials signaled incomplete, so apparently it would have counted, and the block will go to the Shred. And Salt Lake came to play out of the halftime locker room, winning that third quarter in 6-2.
What a response by Salt Lake after a first half that wasn't up to their phenomenal performance last week. They are riding the momentum of this crowd into the fourth quarter.
Down the stretch we come in the UFA 2025 regular season. Boston, D.C. tomorrow, the UFA game of the week in our nation's capital. Friday night Frisbee. Next week, the wind chill in the shred right back here at Zions Bank Stadium, Boston, New York. Week 13 game of the week next Saturday, the 19th on WatchUFA.tv. Here tonight, Colorado led at the half, but it's Salt Lake by 3 with the disc as we start the fourth. Salt Lake's offense didn't have many opportunities in that third quarter. It felt like the D-line was out there the whole time. Jordan Kerr with a perfect put to Chad Jorgensen.
I mean, this receiving core just cannot be stopped. Chad Jorgensen, Matt Rusnagel, I think these guys have legs for days. They've got speed and timing. I don't know what defensive core is really going to slow this group down.
It is striking how bumpy and turbulent the end of last year's regular season was for the Salt Lake offense. And something was off about the unit. They didn't have the crispness that we've come to expect. But Rusnagel's the guy who's opened up space. Chad Jorgensen, we talked about him in the open of the show, moving from the D-line. McKay has continued to play great. And they have just found the right group. Braden Eberhard as well has been super steady. Colorado needs scores, and they need them relatively quickly. Quinn Feiner from Zeke Thoresen. That score took just 30 seconds. Summit back within 3. And the difference in the game, Salt Lake has 3 red zone turnovers. Colorado has double that. 2 huge ones at the beginning and the end of the third quarter that just loom so large. I mean, yeah, when Tim Elliott had the disc in the end zone to our left and Quinn Feiner had the disc in the end zone to our right, I was already writing the goal down in my notebook.
Yeah, and I don't blame you.
And I use a pen.
Which makes your score sheet a little messy.
It does, it does. It's part of the process. 2 goals in the first 75 seconds here in this fourth quarter. Can Colorado's D-line not just create some pressure, but have that pressure lead to turnovers and conversions? Rusnagel, another big chunk. He'll rip it deep. Jordan Kerr versus Kai Marshall.
And see,
incomplete.
A big difference there is Kerr tried to high point it with Marshall's great pressure from the backside. He didn't just try and body him and keep him on that hip and run out the trajectory. That's a method that has traditionally worked for these Salt Lake receivers.
Van Dusen shoots it the length of the field the other way. Marshall unable to bring it down, but we got a timeout before the throw. Tim Kafalis taking the first of his 2 timeouts here in the second half, and it turned out to save the possession.
So they will maintain possession.
I need to take a deep breath. I think both teams do as well.
Right? You throw a negative pass or a swing, you've got to run off it. You have to run off it. It's all legs, baby. Downfield, we're fucking great. Let's go. What do you want? The play to Seth, I'll be the back. Okay? Legs on 2. 1, 2, legs.
Quinn Feiner turned 27 in April. He's been one of the stars in this league since he joined the Summit in 2022. Can he lead another comeback for the Summit here at Salt Lake? They were down big in the fourth quarter a year ago. Found their way back, won that game in dramatic fashion. This Huck ripped down by Forsberg.
Seth Ferris has been appealing for a foul call from the moment he released it, but not coming.
Right in front of the Shred sideline. Here's Kimball Pugh. Will his big night continue? The connection for the Shred D-line. Kimball Pugh to Alex Forsberg on Friday night.
I mean, you gotta know, if this Salt Lake D-line gets a chance, it is going to rip. You have to hustle back. As we get a look at the first turnover in the point, Marshall with the defensive pressure, and then Ferris, not sure if he saw Forsberg defending. I think he probably just saw Min Fink having a step to that one side of Pugh. And then after the turnover, it's Pugh to Forsberg. I gotta see more hustle from this Summit O-line that came in after the timeout, after this group has turned it over. They gotta apply more pressure to get the disc back.
So bookends there for Forsberg. Ian, I don't know if the honor roll for Week 12 is going to be big enough for both Kimball Pugh and Alex Forsberg.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good Frisbee to be played this weekend.
Yeah, they're making cases for themselves, no question.
Colorado had the disc, a chance to get back within 2. Instead, they're down by 4 again.
That's just frustration from Colorado because
they had the completion.
The completion was going to be larger than the foul call gainer.
Brooks catches it through the pressure and then shoots it to the end zone, but a whistle arrives a little tardy again. Brooks is like, I just hit him in the end zone.
We've kind of had late whistles all night, and you could see Feiner was frustrated a moment ago. Brooks frustrated there, Kuhlman frustrated. I'm not saying this has been one-sided against a single team. It's just there's got to be more conviction and quicker action from this crew.
Swing it for Brooks.
Wow, a lot of physicality at the front there between DeMorgan and Jackson.
Totaling to Kuhlman. 3-goal game, 7:46 to play.
And Quinn Feiner having a conversation with Nate DeMorgan, and Feiner's just kind of walking away. DeMorgan just wants to keep talking.
Ian, I'm curious to ask you a big picture question about Colorado and specifically Tobias Brooks. I mean, he's just 21. He's, such highly regarded, coming out of high school, and for what he did with Carolina as a high school kid before he even came to college.
Yeah.
What were your expectations with him for Colorado, and how has his performance compared, contrasted, confounded your expectations?
I'm surprised to see him playing the center handler role. Not because I think there's someone else on Colorado who's definitively a better fit, just because I think he's at his best when he gets the first under and he's got that option to stretch the field, or he's got that option to throw a nice break throw or push the pace with a give and go. That being said, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. He's shouldered a huge productive load, and you got to be really impressed with all that he's accomplished. I wonder if that's the optimal setup.
Chad Jorgensen shoots it deep. Braden Eberhardt is wide open. Another practice put for the Shred. Chad Jorgensen to Braden Eberhardt. Pretty.
It's almost like here in the second half, the cap has come off the top. and suddenly there's a green light and a lack of defensive resistance that just wasn't present in the first half. I think we were in the first half, you know, Salt Lake has gone 2 for 5 in the first half on Hucks, and now they're 3 for 5 in the second half so far on deep shots. So getting a little more efficient. And for all the Frisbee nerds who are listening, if you have not checked out the joint venture between Braden Eberhard and Jacob Miller, Shown Space at shownspace.com, please do yourself a favor and do so. Some really cool ways of looking at UFA player data, of visualizing it. They were guests on a recent episode of Pod Practice with Quinn Feiner and Mikey Lunn, and there's just a wealth of information to learn from what they've put together, and they're just scratching the surface of what we hope we can continue to learn about the game we all love.
Kimball Pugh nearly had another block there, hunting against Nonaman Fink. And Feiner off Min Fink. Oh, we got a late whistle again.
Really?
Looked like a drop.
Yeah, I don't know if LaRue contacted Feiner.
Goes as a foul on the shred. The interesting thing about what you said about Brooks and how he might be at his best downfield, again, I agree with you. He can absolutely be the center handler. It's kind of the conversation we've had about Alex Atkins for a couple of years.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And it's not, again, it's not that I don't think Brooks is a good handler or can be a good handler. I just think he's more dangerous and threatening to defenses when he's starting as an initiator, and they have to respect, oh, is he going to take off? Oh, is he going to come under? And then when he has the disc in space, oh, is he going to stretch the field with his throws? Oh, is he going to break the mark? Oh, is he going to push the pace with a bunch of throw and go? I think there are just more options that they have to be, the defenses have to be concerned about when he starts in one of those roles.
Kind of like how the New York Empire feel like a more scary team when Jack Williams is starting downfield.
Sure.
As opposed to initiating from the handler set.
Sure.
By the way, we send out our thoughts and best wishes to Calvin Brown and the New York Empire, who suffered a torn ACL a couple weeks ago. And also best wishes to the Austin Soul leading scorer Jackson Potts, who unfortunately tore his ACL in last weekend's Austin-Houston game. Sending out vibes for quick recoveries and positive spirits. Those are two really talented players and good dudes. Big bid from Matty Jackson comes up empty. And it's another score for Jace Dunabile, a guy that never seems to get tired. Runs as fast in the fourth as he did in the first.
You know, it's funny, Kerr didn't opt to hit Dunabile earlier in that stall count when he could have stepped into a flick, but then he kind of course corrected and directed traffic on Dunabile's cut and stepped into that inside backhand. We've been talking about getting to that high side inside lane. That is where Jordan Kerr abuses defenses and makes his money. And yet another example of that right there.
4:44 left in the fourth. By the way, right now on WatchUFA.tv, the Aviators and the Havoc tied with under a minute to go in Houston. WatchUFA.tv. If you haven't had a subscription all year, this is the best time to get one. Is that a clean block? No, it's not. Ashton called for the foul on Feiner. Is it just me, or has Quinn Feiner been in the middle of a lot of these plays tonight?
No, he has been.
Shooting it deep for Thoresen. Zeke accelerating back to the end zone, keeps his feet and brings it in. Having flashbacks to the quarterfinals of college nationals there with Thoresen going long.
Little conversation there between Feiner and Ashton and Merrill. But a pretty emphatic end to the chat with a beautiful deep shot here.
That's a 35-second possession and a Summit score. There's not a lot of space between the back line of the end zone and that end wall to navigate. If Colorado's going to create a comeback, it basically has to start right here. Sideline bouncer pull. Colorado looks like it's going to set a double team. Marshall and Piper.
Eberhard and company have been so good at just nullifying the impacts of that double team. And once again, one throw and they're out of trouble. I know Colorado over the course of this year has integrated some of those double teams and other UFA dominant strategies into their playbook, but against an elite offense like Salt Lake, they got to find a little better way to make that more imposing.
We got double Frisbee here in the Aviators and the Havoc, 19 all in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, here in Salt Lake, it's Chad Jorgensen in the end zone again for the shred. See the rest of the Aviators Havoc live right now on watchufa.tv. Kerr to Chad Jorgensen, who, I mean, just got to look at Chad's numbers right now. He's over 300 receiving yards again, closing in on 500 total yards.
Just went out of bounds, so we'll take it at the brick mark.
The Shred's leaders in plus minus tonight, Ian. It's not Kerr, it's not Jorgensen, it's not Chad Jorgensen, it's not Dunabile, it's not Russnagel. Forsberg, Pugh, and McKay. Quinn Feiner adding to his line. That's his third goal of the night.
2:40 to go.
Where were some of these looks in the opening stages of the second half when this offense was just struggling for consistency? I wonder if Colorado's got anything up its sleeve to apply some pressure here. I mean, we've seen them try a roller and a double team. Doesn't look like, oh, here we go, yeah. Van Dusen setting the double team up.
Eberhard again. Bluffs the hammer, takes the reset. Jacob Miller to Kerr, and all alone Dunabile in front of the Salt Lake sideline.
Gives it back to Jacob, though. And the clock continues to run.
Assuming this result hands, it's going to put the Oakland Spiders in position to be the 2 seed in the West playoffs if they can win their regular season finale next week against the San Diego Growlers. For the second straight season, the West Division playoffs are going through Zions Bank Stadium. And by the way, the Shred are about to be 41-6 all time in UFA regular season play. 41-6.
And they will
set the clock back to 1:43.
lead the head-to-head all-time series against Colorado 5-4.
Season sweep this year. Contact there with Hodling bumping into McKay Jorgensen. You know, the Colorado Summit, after their 5-0 start in 2023, were 17-2 as a franchise. After tonight's game, they're going to be 15-15 in their last 30 games. Another assist for Kerr. Another score for Dunabile. Salt Lake is your #1 seed in the West Division playoffs for the second year in a row.
You need 3 shoes!
They're getting Will Selfridge back next week.
Which is kind of scary to think about yet another weapon being dropped right into this O-line. I mean, I think the shift we'd expect is what we saw against Oakland, where Jace Dunabile goes and bolsters one of those D-lines and gives them some more firepower after a turnover.
I think Bryce Merrill also feels that having Chad Jorgensen and Will Selfridge together on the O-line lets him cross-flex one of those guys over to bolster D-lines too. Boston, D.C. tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then next Friday, interdivisional Friday night Frisbee showdown. Second ever meeting between the Windchill and the Shred. First, of course, 2 years ago at Champ Weekend. Another huck toward Quinn Feiner, and he brings it in for the Colorado score with 48 seconds to go. Spike and a little frustration.
Wow, little extra words there with Feiner and Ashton as well. It's almost like Feiner was faking him out with that double plant and letting the energy and frustration go with the spike. Look at this, he just sells this. Yeah, that's great stuff on his part.
Ian, we have seen in the history of the UFA teams get swept 2-0 in a regular season series and then beat the other team in the playoffs, but it is very rare. And, you know, there's a cliche, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I disagree with that cliche. I think if you beat them twice, you're probably going to beat them a 3rd time. Dunabile to Chad Jorgensen, padding the stats. I mean, how much optimism do you have in this Colorado team? Now, they still got 2 more regular season games left. They're at Vegas tomorrow. They got Seattle coming to town next week. Those are important practice games for the Summit as they try to find their 4 quarters of consistency that they're going to need if they're going to win a game in the playoffs, and they're likely going to have to go on the road and win at Oakland.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm not going to say my level of confidence depends entirely on this, but if Alex Atkins is healthy and in form, that's a player who can shift the balance of power a little bit. He can bolster a D-line. He can cross over to an O-line. I'm not saying he's a panacea, but he's someone who changes their outlook quite a bit. And, you know, independent of that, just like what data point do I have from this year to have tons of confidence in this group going forward? I mean, the Oakland win was really special.
That would be the answer.
Yeah, but we've also, I feel like we have more data points of inconsistency than sterling, lengthy stretches of solid ultimate. And it's clear that against Salt Lake, you can't take 3 points off like this group did at the start of the second quarter. You can't take a quarter off. And so I want to see this Colorado team do well. Seth Ferris knows how tight some of those
Albert
windows
Yuan
were.
still wins the Friday night prize
Oh
for
my
best facial
gosh.
expression in the UFA, but Seth Ferris,
Yeah.
probably number 2.
If you haven't done so, A, go back and watch the Phoenix Glory game, but B, check out the UFA Instagram because
How would you describe it?
ghoul-like, staring into the soul with no emotion in the most hilarious way possible. And I say that, I don't know Albert personally, but that was just an incredible sequence. If you don't know what I'm talking about, pull it up on the UFA Instagram.
The Salt Lake Shred were down to the half, but they get the job done in the second in front of their lively, rowdy, and loyal fans. And they sweep the season series over the Summit. They win their 10th consecutive game. And the Shred, with one more tune-up before they host the West Division Final here at Zions Bank Stadium.
That's going to be a really cool test for Bryce Merrill and company, getting to see a different style of defense from the Central Division as that group tunes up for the playoffs. And really no question, Salt Lake has earned it this year. This team is the class of the West, having swept season series against both Oakland and Colorado. A couple convincing wins in there, a couple thrilling come-from-behind wins, and one come-from-behind win in that group.
Hey, remember when the Shred had 10 turnovers at halftime?
Yeah.
They finished the night with 11.
I mean, talk about a team that knows how to adjust in the second half.
Only one second half turnover. And as we sit right now, here are what the playoffs look like. In the South, Flyers hustle tomorrow night. Huge game for all 4 of those teams. And in the East, you got Boston at DC tomorrow. The Breeze record is listed incorrectly there. The Breeze are 6-4 after their win at Boston last week, so we'll get that fixed. New York is 5-5. The Phoenix are 5-5. Phoenix Empire feels like it's for a playoff spot on Sunday in New York.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot for New York to respond to after losing Calvin Brown, and the injury bug's been challenging them all season long, and Philly's going to be as motivated as ever.
Wow. Fun night here in Salt Lake. The Shred prevail 21-18. Our Pabst Light player of the game, McKay Jorgensen, 58 of 59, 5 assists, 618 total yards, most on the Shred. Of course, Kimball Pugh, Alex Forsberg, a lot of guys had great nights for Bryce Merrill's squad. 10 straight wins for the Shred, and they'll be back right here next Friday night for the Minnesota Wind Chill. My personal thanks to the UFA and the Shred and the Summit organizations for their kind gifts they passed along. Special night for me. The special season of the UFA continues on WatchUFA.tv all weekend long. For Ian Toner and our entire crew, I'm Evan Lepler saying good night from Salt Lake City.